What if humanity were to open itself to the oneness and sacredness of all beings, animate and inanimate?
Imam Feisal Rauf. I'm Imam of a mosque about 12 blocks north of Ground Zero in Manhattan, New York City. I'm also a trustee of the Islamic Center of New York, which is the largest mosque in New York City, and the founder of Asma Society, a society established to further and to catalyze the discussion on the shaping of an American Islamic identity. I was born in Kuwait of Egyptian parents. Grew up in England, in Malaysia, before its independence, and since 1965 in the United States of America. My father was a teacher of religion, but mainly the Islamic religion, and he was sent by Al-Azhar University, which was then the premier university for Islamic studies, to help establish academic institutes of learning, Islamic institutes of learning in Kuwait and in England, and he was in the United States the director and imam of the Islamic Center of New York and of Washington, D.C.
My name is Kyriacos Markides. I was born East Greek Orthodox and raised as a Greek Orthodox. I came to the United States in 1960 as a student, but I've been in the US now for the last 43 years. I became an American citizen in 1978, and I teach sociology at the University of Maine for the last 31 years. I came into the United States with all kinds of prejudices and superstitions that I carried along from my own background, particularly nationalism. And I thought, for example, that the most superior culture was Greek culture, and I used to be very ethnocentric. But my encounters with so many other people in the United States with different value system, different beliefs, gradually chipped away from that ethnocentrism. And before you are free to encounter spiritual realities, you have to be liberated from this kind of cultural conditioning.
I was brought up in a very pluralistic environment where even my identity had to embrace not only a Middle Eastern Arab Islamic identity, it had to embrace aspects of Western thinking, because my education was primarily in English, brought up in the thinking modes both of the Orient and of the Occident, so to speak, and in Southeast Asia as well. So I had to forge a worldview which embraced and was anchored in all these traditions.
So during my academic training as a sociologist, by the time I finished my graduate studies, I was an agnostic. I was no longer you might say, a quote-unquote a naive believer. And that was not an easy state to be, because I was a reluctant agnostic, but given the kind of training I received in the universities, I felt that religion was nothing more than a social project, a creation of society. And it was later on that once I came to Maine, when I encountered transcendental meditation and reading about Native American shamanism, I began to have second thoughts. And then I began reading in the area of the interface between science and religion and spirituality. And I realized that that was an illusion, that in fact we are much larger what we assume, and that deep down the whole universe is animated by spirit.
Islam was a very important part of my life. It was the defining feature of my father's work, and by virtue of his position as a principal and rector of Islamic academic institutions, I had the good fortune to be surrounded by by many of the leading Islamic scholars of our time who visited the university and came to our home for luncheons and dinners, and sometimes visits which over a span of a number of days or a week. And this afforded me the opportunity to somehow imbibe not only Islamic knowledge from the point of view of book learning, but to also to see exemplars of the Islamic faith tradition, Islamic intellectuals, Islamic thinkers, and how they behaved not only in the public sphere but even in the private domain as well. And this afforded me the opportunity to get a depth, an in-depth sense of what it means to be an exemplar within the Muslim faith tradition.
Yeah, I think the United States has a spiritual mission where people from radically different traditions and backgrounds can live in peaceful neighborliness.
ASMA is an acronym for the American Sufi Muslim Association, and it was founded to forge and shape the discourse and the discussion on what it means to be an American Muslim who is motivated by the spiritual aspect and ethical aspect of Islam.
American society, by being multicultural, can contribute to the opening up of the spiritual dimension of man, of humanity, because we are forced to re-examine our limited identities. So as we encounter other people's other traditions and we are expected to live harmoniously in the same territory, we have to re-examine all that baggage that we bring along that tells us that we belong to the most superior culture in the world. We need to overcome that in order to embrace the world.
We can practice our faith in a party sense, like Democrat versus a Republican, and we become caught up in that which differentiates us. And we can practice our faith by looking to what the eternal ethical foundations of our religion impels us towards. And when we anchor ourselves on and stand in that space, in that place, the way we speak, the walk we walk and the talk we talk relates us to what is common and eternal in the human condition.
That people can learn to appreciate each other's culture and to begin looking upon the other as a human being first and foremost, and then everything else.
Out of many, one. E Pluribus Unum.
I believe in the divinity of all of nature, and that includes the divinity of man as well. I believe that we are all part and parcel of nature. We are all part and parcel of God. That spark of divinity that resides inside me also resides inside that tree, the bird, the mountains, the rivers, the streams, all of nature. We are all created by that universal spark, whether you want to call it God or the Great Spirit, as the Indians call it. Mr. Emerson calls it the Oversoul. I prefer the term universal intelligence. It is a divine spark that is inside each and every living thing and each and every part of nature.